Brian Goorjian, Matty Johns. How
Nice
you doing?
to meet you.
Before we start, can I flatter you? You look good for 70, Brian. What is it? Your workout, good DNA, Botox? What is it?
Jesus, no Botox, that's for sure. But I do enjoy myself. But I've always been active, worked out, been around the game, and had a philosophy that to be in it, you got to stay healthy. And I love it. But if you can't go, and you're not, I feel like my style has always been, I'm in. And so I've worked at it around the game.
Brian, I've admired you for a long while. Not just because your success over a long period of time, but the way you saw the game. Like, I love the fact that every time you talk about basketball, you talk about it like it's just such a big part of you and a big part of your life.
Well, you come to this country, and I think, I came in the 70s and knew nothing about, in Melbourne, Australian rules football, cricket, swimming, and coming from America, basketball, you didn't have to sell. Everybody, it was a first-tier sport. Where you're walking in back then, it was a third-tier sport. And it was something that, right away you learned as a coach, you got to sell this. So I remember, starting in this, where do you learn from? So I went to the Australian rules football, Terry Wallace, Robert Walls, David Parkin, and how they handled the media and how they were was totally different than what was required by me. So with ours, we were constantly open, come on in, anything we can do to promote the game. So I've always kind of learned that in Australia, and it's been a big part of, that's how I started in this game, and a big part in Australia has been, and we've always been in that battle of selling the game.
Brian, before we talk about you as a coach, and of course the Boomers and the expectations here in Paris, you as a player, what type of player were you?
I thought a floor general, a guy that I thought I was a shooter, took a lot of shots, but I also I thought was pretty good passer, pretty good skills guy, getting guys the ball, running a team, and came from a coach's background, and then played for Lindsay and kind of grew. He's one of the greatest coaches I've ever played for, even coming from a sport, like I said, that was first tier in America, playing for Lindsay. I constantly grew and became a better player, learned to play without the ball. He helped develop my skills. And I thought, I played 1 year NBL. We went 8 years and won the championship and moved into the NBL. And that was the first year of the three-point line. Yeah, right. And so I had 10 threes and a half.
Did you really?
Yeah, I had 10 threes and a half. So I was a shooter and was a pretty good floor general.
Is that what made you a great coach? You said you're a good floor general. Is that, you just think you as a player and the type of player you were, is that what's put you in good stead for coaching?
My father.
Yeah, right.
Grew up sitting in the back seat of my dad's car. My dad was a great coach, and coached college basketball, was a high school legend. And when I was a kid, I ended up playing for him in high school, and we won big. And I'd sit in the back seat when I was 7 years old, going and coming back from the games, and he'd be talking about the game afterwards with the assistant coaches in the car, and at the table all the time with the coaches. So I was always around it. And when I started here in coaching, I thought back to all the things that he did. And those were how I started in this game. The philosophy was outwork your opponent, recruiting, and the practice style came from what I learned from him when I was a kid.
Brian, let's talk about the Boomers, right? And I'm curious. And I don't want to, I'm conscious trying not to ask naive questions, so forgive me. But I look at American basketball, and the philosophy is there, and it looks a very athletic game, I suppose I'm stating the obvious, but European basketball looks very skill-based, passing, systems of play. What is Australian basketball?
Australian basketball is very much going down an NBA line of, you know, and I refer to a lot of the stuff you hear now when you're listening to the Australian rules football, which I follow closely, is, you know, running, getting the ball from, you know, playing north and south, playing downhill, playing at pace, getting things done before the defense is set. And, you know, you look at our players, and when I started in this, I have a unique situation that I did 2 Olympics, and then I had a 12-year break, and then I came back. And when I started in this, I had Andrew Bogut as an 18-year-old, and he was still in college. We didn't have one NBA player. And now we could field a team that we have 10 guys, 11 guys playing in the NBA. So they're playing, and a lot of them come out of the American system into the NBA. The NBL is taking very much an NBA approach, you know, in how we play. So people are comparing the Boomers and wanting us to play like the Europeans, but in making comment that, man, the ball's got to look at Germany or look at Spain, and from a Boomer standpoint, we're trying to beat them,
yeah,
and we're not going to play like them.
Yeah, okay.
So we're very much on the offensive end, much more NBA-ish than we are European. Pace, like I say, and then I think the thing that is a trademark of Australian basketball, and it comes from all sport here, and a lot of our guys that make the NBA are there because of the teamship, the leadership, the 50-50 ball, the toughness. And you look at guys like, you know, the history of it, Delly, Baines, Bogut, Joe Ingles, Patty Mills, a lot of them have made the NBA and are playing in the NBA because they bring that to the team. And a lot of these NBA players, American players, you're a coach and you go, what's this little ingredient that we need to add to our group? And the Aussies have that reputation.
The side at the moment, it's an interesting stage, Brian, and I suppose challenging in a lot of ways, is you've got some great players, and been great players for a long time, getting to the twilight years, respectively, and you've got all these young emerging superstars. How's that dynamic for you?
I mean, I've got some tough calls to make, and I already have. You know, Baines and Delly for the World Cup was not, you know, that was very difficult and very tough. And now coming ahead, you know, like you say, there's a balance here, and you know, it works in 4-year cycles. And what you don't want is everybody moving at the same time. And I've already made some tough calls, and I think the young ones, we introduced 7 new players to this, and now there may be another tough one or 2 to come. I'm not sure yet. I'll see that in camp. But what we've done is we've positioned it where we're not spitting out 6 guys. It may be 1. It may not. We've introduced 7 new guys to this campaign. We don't need a lot of change, but there's a couple line ball calls that's going to make this. And all the time I've been in the national program, which has been a long time, this is going to be the toughest camp and the most competitive camp ever.
What are some of the players, Brian? Dante Exum, Josh Green. What an experience for them, the NBA Finals.
Fantastic. The opportunity to play at that level, to play a role and an important role on a team like that, and see these guys grow. And the one that you're talking about, Dante Exum, to see a guy that, you know, came into the league with high expectations and then get spit out the other end and end up, when he came into our Olympic campaign, he hadn't played prior in the World Cup, the lead up. He was constantly injured. He'd been spit out of the NBA. And now, you know, he comes in, plays great for us, is instrumental. And really, him and Tybal, I think, were the difference from the national teams before that had finished 4th. We had that athleticism and length in the wings, and they didn't have that prior. Those 2 guys were different. They were new and had like I said, an athleticism, a length that the Australians teams had never had. From that, went to Europe and played great in Europe, reinvented himself, and has come back to the NBA, got spit out again, and now has come back after Houston and got onto Dallas's roster and has had a great season, and here he is now in the NBA Finals.
I mean, some of those, mate, scored some big baskets, some pressure baskets. Yeah, and that's probably the thing, isn't it? You get those players that have tread the hard road, it's been spread out and come back again, what it does for their mental toughness. What's he like as a person, Brian?
As good as it gets, you know, leader of men. I think he's a real leader. He's a team guy. And the best example is to hear him talk after, you know, his accomplishment. He hit some big shots. He made a great play. And they asked him, you know, how do you do this? And he said, I'm always, he'll go 3 games and not play a minute, or play 2 minutes in a game and get a dunk and not come back in the game, and goes, I support the team and they know I'm ready, and I prepare myself to be ready, and when the moment calls, I'm there to perform. And, you know, it's a great that mentality for the national team, not just for him, but a lot of those guys, you know, they'll sit maybe for 2 games, and then you have a situation, I need this particular skill, like a Goulding. I need you now, and you haven't played the last 2 games. You have to have that headset on, and these guys playing at that level on a team like that for the championship are an example of it.